Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I am with the North Carolina Institute of Medicine. Thank you for being with us today. You are in Navigating the Caregiving Journey, Tools for Family and Community Support. Hopefully that is the breakout that you mean to be in. I'll just quickly introduce our moderator today. Mark Hensley is Associate State Director of AARP North Carolina. He joined AARP-NC as Associate Director for Community Outreach and Advocacy in the Triad region. Previously coordinated North Carolina's Alzheimer's and Dementia Services for Health and Human Services Division of Aging and Adult Services. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Mark to introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you.
I'm going to stand up if that's okay. I get tired of sitting. So good morning. Thank you for being here in this very important conversation about caregiving. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of define what is caregiving. And you would think it's a pretty simple thing. Webster's defines caregiving as a person who provides direct care for children, the elderly, or the chronically ill. And we've got to get that word, the elderly, out of people's mouths. And this really sounds like defining caregiving is simple, but it's not a simple answer because surprisingly, caregiving is complex. And you know, seeing a lot of people in here that I've worked with over the years, that's always where we start talking about the fact that the term caregiver has been used to describe a variety of people, ranging from family members who are unpaid that are providing care to loved ones, to grandchildren who don't realize that they're actually being raised by grandparents who they will be caring for often sooner than later. And then we talk about the healthcare workers in the medical field, and we've been set up very well with this morning's opening session about the workforce caregiver crisis in our country. And likewise, caregiving is rarely fair, it's rarely equitable. It touches all people and all lives. So we're not talking about those people, we're actually talking about ourselves. Caregiving is a journey filled with both challenges and many rewards that you'll hear about today from our panelists. And today we do have an incredible set of panelists who bring a wealth of experience and insight to this table. So thank you for taking time to be with us today. So whether you're a professional, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a researcher, I brought a researcher with me from Greensboro this morning because I said, you need to be at the table to hear this. But before we dive into this conversation, I encourage you in this session to think about your own experiences and questions. You'll notice on the board on the projection is a QR code, and that is to a presentation and research that Dr. Julian Monjuro Rodriguez has done. So we didn't have time to give you that, but we're being very digital first. So scan that code and get that and save it onto your smart device to look at later after this session. But we will at the end ask for your questions. So think about what you want to ask. So let me dive in to introducing our distinguished panel. First of all, Julian Monjuro Rodriguez is a professor of sociology and gerontology at the School of Social Work at UNC Charlotte. Dr. Monjuro Rodriguez has been in this department at UNC School of Social Work for many years. I've had the pleasure of working with him. He is interested in testing theological-based interventions designed to help family caregivers to reduce stress, to reduce depression and burden, to improve the quality of life of older adults and their families. Next, we have Amanda Biggs, specialist for Project CARE, and the CARE is an acronym for Caregiver Alternatives to Running on Empty, and she is with the Mideast Commission Area Agency on Aging in Little Washington. Amanda has had this position for now a number of years. We were trying to go back and figure out since 2017. She supports 29 counties in the northeastern region of North Carolina. She is a National Council of Certified Dementia Practitioners and has obtained the certification in Advanced Clinical Dementia Practices from the University of Michigan. And she has over 27 years of experience working with care partners and their loved ones who are experiencing some form of cognitive decline. And lastly is my former boss, Steve Friedman, who is a unpaid caregiver caring for his wife, but he's also the former section chief and longest working employee at the North Carolina Division of Aging. And he retired in 2023 after 50 years in state government and working in Department of Health and Human Services, the Division of Aging. He held a number of management roles. He held a number of roles writing state plans. I almost could have written this myself, but he managed programs like Project Care, the Family Caregiver Support Program, which was created in the reauthorization of the Older Americans Act in the year 2000, and respite for older adults and their families, and the certification program for the adult daycare and adult day health programs. Steve, wealth of knowledge. He has been a mentor to many people in this room, and we're so glad to have all of you here. And I want to kick us off with some questions. Again, we'll hold your questions to the end, but I'm going to start with Dr. Monjero Rodriguez. Let's start with, let me slip my page. Okay, here we go. My printer printed everything very small today, and so my notes are not age-friendly, and I'm finding more and more that age-friendly things matter in my life more than ever before, like the orthopedic dress shoes that I'm wearing today. What are the most common challenges caregivers face, and how can they effectively manage them?
Thank you, Mark, for your introduction and the question. You can call me Julian, it's fine, or Julian. You don't have to call me doctor all the time and stuff. But I wanted to talk about caregiving because I think that there are some important priorities. We heard today about the shortage of professionals where actually we need more people and we need to train them. My work during the past 10 years has been working on programs that can help caregivers to improve their skills about how to manage the care and also to help them to reduce their mental problems or health problems that they may have. It is a sort of a learning program. It's not therapy. It's not a social support. It's just tailored to individual needs, and we teach them strategies to make possible for them to improve their health in general. So this means less depression, less frustration, less stress, more self-efficacy, more positive experiences with the care partner and the caregiving in general, and getting support from the community, support from family, and from actually resources that are available in different places around us, like databases and websites. And I think this type of programs, psychoeducational programs, are important to offer them to the people, to the caregivers in general, because they have the strongest effect in these outcomes. And therefore, we've been doing this for many years now, and now we have a better understanding better understanding of some of those coping strategies that can help them to do a better job for themselves and for the care partner. That's one aspect, and I may talk to that maybe later. We ran a program for grandparents raising grandchildren when I was in California, and when I moved over here, we just ran a program for caregivers and taking care of an adult with a chronic problem or including dementia. And the program is evidence-based now. We provided the efficacy data, and now we are translating the program for Latinos, and we have done some testing in San Diego, in California, and we will do that here in the States in the coming weeks, in the coming months. But the other aspect that I want to emphasize is that I don't talk directly to caregivers. I do not recruit them. I may not know all the life experiences of them. So what the strategy has been for us is to partner with community organizations who are offering services to caregivers and train their professionals, facilitators, to deliver the learning program, the psychoeducational program. And when we were done with the whole experiment of, is this work or it doesn't work? Now we know it works. So what do? I don't call my students. I go back to my community partners and say, you are going to offer this as you need it, and we will be providing that training to you if you need it. And so embedding those programs in the community, including the health systems, if that is possible, that's pretty much very difficult at this point, is also a priority for us. And the health systems they have particularly more difficulties because they have different record system. They don't talk to the caregiver. They talk to the person with dementia, but they don't talk to the caregiver who is there. And so some things have to change. But eventually, it's not, it is those organizations who are providing the service who really need to take the ownership of the programs and offer them to their own kind of members. So those two things are very important. I know there are some other issues, but I don't want to spend more. And those will be my two choices.
Amanda?
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Mark, for having me here. The Project Care program is a caregiver-directed program. We focus directly with the caregiver who is caring for someone living with dementia, any kind of cognitive impairment diagnosed by the physician. So what we see in our caregivers, a lot of emotional stress. Some feel isolated. There's a financial and physical strain that goes along with this. They're burned out. They're overwhelmed. And by the time I get my phone call from them, that's exactly where they are. And they do need a little bit of a break. They need respite. So helping them, channel a way to get respite and assistance in the home. For some caregivers, it's tough. They don't want to allow total strangers in their home. They don't even know how to get the process started. So a lot of times, respite is a big part of my program, which is the funding that the state of North Carolina allows me to award them. But sometimes it's just case management. My job is to help them not to run on empty anymore. So helping them with those resources to keep their loved one at home for as long as possible, as safely as possible, but also focus on themselves as well. They can be sleep deprived, thinking impaired, and if those are some of their issues they're going through, they're not safe for themselves nor the person that they're caring for. So how can they, the second half of your question, how can they effectively manage that? Just simply ask for help. Again, it's tough for some. But focusing on yourself as well as a caregiver is so vitally important. I mean, we tend to focus on the person in front of us while we're rescheduling our doctor's appointments. Mama's not having a good day, so I can't, go out and take care of myself. We have to find time to fit that in. It is so vitally important because you could check out as quicker than they can, by just being overwhelmed and burned out and not being able to focus on yourself. It doesn't mean that, and respite looks different for everyone. I had a caregiver to tell me, I just want to be able to go into my bedroom and get 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Things we take for granted. And because her mom was so busy and, she wasn't sleeping. So when mom doesn't sleep, the daughter doesn't sleep, So she's, I just want someone here. My respite will be to go in my bedroom and sleep. Another one just told me, she's like, I just want to be able to go to McDonald's through the drive-thru and get an ice cream cone without having to lug my dad up with me. Just that me time. That time for themselves, that little bit can make a big difference. We call it recharging their caregiving batteries, and that's what they need. Focusing on themselves, getting achievable goals for themselves. Again, it's individualized. Respite looks different for everyone, so we're here to help them maneuver through that process.
Yes.
I just want to compliment what she's saying because respite is very important. But what I would suggest, we need to train that caregiver also to identify those situations where the emotions are so high and it's just a conflict and there's no way to manage that behavior. So how do you react when your loved one is not really happy about what you just said or just happened? So the caregiver needs to learn how to identify the things that are the cause of that behavior and respond to that, not with that emotional kind of distress, but with a plan. You know, when this happened and what was the cause, and next time I know how to respond, so on and so forth. So that's the complement of the two things, you know, not just the recipe, but also the ability to control the quality of the management of the relationship.
Thank you. Steve?
Okay, I'm going to talk mainly about my own personal caregiver experience with my wife who has severe dementia, and she's had it for, I'd say, at least 5 years. And so that's going to be a little bit different because my situation is I'm a caregiver, but I also employ a professional caregiver, and we split the time. We keep her at home. And so I'm private pay, and that's a lot different than some of the programs that you'll hear because a lot of people simply can't pay for a caregiver for many hours or whatever. And so it's really a rationed service. I know the programs when I was in the Division of Aging, the Project Care, the Family Caregiver Support Program, and some other grants that we got over the years. You know, you're limited in the dollars and you want to serve as many people as you can, so you kind of have to ration the hours and you have to ration the amount of money that goes for the vouchers to the families. So that situation is, I understand it from a professional standpoint, but I'm going to be talking about my personal situation where I'm a private caregiver. I'm fortunate enough to be able to pay a home care agency a substantial number of hours a week, and I'll get into that. But my wife actually, I was on the Dementia State Task Force with the Institute of Medicine along with Mark and 2015, and the plan came out in 2016. That was about the time that my wife started exhibiting some behavior, and I didn't recognize it as dementia originally because it was eating disorder issues, chronic pain in her back that she was complaining about. But when she started missing doctor's appointments and everything, I got the message. But to answer the question about the greatest challenges for me as a private caregiver, it was really important for me to not only get sufficient respite, but to hire a caregiver that could be trusted and who could come in and that my wife would feel comfortable with and that I would trust. And so I've been very fortunate, I'll knock on wood. I've had the same caregiver for the last 4.5 years. He was my second caregiver. The first one didn't work out. She worked like 2 or 3 months and quit because it was too difficult managing my wife. But then I got this young man, and he's been with us ever since, and I'll be talking about what me and him, our journey has been as we answer these different questions. But I would say the biggest general challenges for me was actually finding a caregiver that and a company that I trusted and that I wanted to invest in a private pay situation. And then once I did that, I would say, and you've heard it from these two already, about respite. Respite is so important. So developing and maintaining a plan for continuous respite, especially as the disease gets worse, the trajectory of the disease changes, your family member goes through different stages and things like that. The respite's got to, in my mind, the respite has to change too. And what I did was I increased the respite from when I first started. I was 16 hours a week, and I was actually still working at the Division of Aging. This was during COVID years, and we were working at home, so I was able to take care of my wife as she was getting worse and still work, but it got really more difficult. And when I retired, I started out with 16 hours of respite, moved it up to 20, which was just about every afternoon for about 4 hours a week. But then after I retired, I came up with a plan to really increase that. So it's now like 37 hours a week. That's almost a full-time caregiver. I'm lucky enough that I can swing it, but it's one of the best decisions I ever made. And as a result of that, I've been able to develop what I call quality respite. I differentiate between quality respite and what I call regular respite. And we learned this when we were developing those caregiver tools with the Family Caregiver Support Program. We got a lot of information about quality respite. To me, quality respite is just something that you really look forward to. A lot of times you have to plan it and schedule it, but it gives you something to look forward to, and it's great for your mental health. Regular respite is like going to the grocery store, which is a lot easier without having to take my wife, but it's not exactly what I look forward to, or taking my car in to get it serviced. It's not. It's part of the respite, but it's not something. So I'm differentiating between the two. So I'll be talking a lot about the respite as it relates to my caregiver situation. And I do have a lot of respite, so I put a lot of thought into it, and I've invested in it.
So, Steve, you've touched on this already, but if you were advising another caregiver or professional, what signs would you say in your journey really led you to making the decision to get additional support?
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking about my own demise in terms of trying to deal with all the stress and everything. So when you start getting stressed out, when you can't sleep because you're worrying, when you start forgetting things that you don't normally forget, but because you're thinking about your family member, my spouse, so often, you start neglecting things in your own life. So you start forgetting things, you get frustrated, things like that. And all those things were happening. And I just said to myself, the only way I'm going to be able to survive and have a quality of life in my own life is to get help, significant help. And it kind of coincided with my retirement. When I retired from the division, I had a lot more time, and I could not spend morning, noon, and night with my wife. That would not work. So the way it is now, I take care of her in the morning, he takes care of her in the afternoon, and I take care of her at night.
Thank you. Amanda, what would you add to that?
Just like Mr. Freeman said, I'll just piggyback off of him. Just being exhausted, stressed, overwhelmed again, and just anxious. If you're not the person who would just lash out at someone because they asked you a simple question, it's time for respite. It's time for that break. And I like what he said too about having that one caregiver that fits the mold of his family, his wife and him, because routine is key for someone living with cognitive impairment. Structuring their day is so important to help them get through their daily activities. So having that same person coming in and not having the different folks rolling through is very, very vital as well. And respite. I know you got to go to the grocery store and, go to the doctor's appointments, but we want you to get on that golf course too. We want you to go to the movies, go have lunch with a friend that you haven't, an ex-coworker that you haven't had time to, talk to or, have lunch with in a while. So do some fun stuff, go plan a trip, do something, go on a church retreat. I know a lot of men groups meet at Hardee's in the mornings and eat biscuits and gravy. So, things like that, that's what we want you to put into your day, the things that you're not able to do and hadn't been able to do for a while.
If you have something to look forward to, takes your mind off your problems and your worries, especially if you can really focus on the upcoming happy,
Yeah,
joy, fun, activities,
absolutely. Yeah.
or the people that you might meet.
So Julian, what would you add to that?
So I think that's probably one of the strategies to focus on activities that you enjoy doing with your family members and the partner. Also, I think that the you have to make a plan. It's not just, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit down and write down exactly what kind of goals I am going to accomplish during this coming week. I'm going to program this time for myself, time with my friends, and so that I know that I can actually continue offering the best care to my relatives. I think you probably know this very well. So that's something that is important. And then, what we teach the caregivers is simple exercises like deep breathing to actually reduce the stress, and also changing those negative thoughts into positives, and focus the situation from that perspective. And so they are able to actually take control slowly of their emotions and bad responses.
So Julian, what essential skills, and you've studied this your whole career, what essential skills should every caregiver possess, and how do they acquire them?
So to me, caregiving is a very dynamic situation and experience. There is also a process. The first problem that we find is that you don't recognize that you are a caregiver, and you don't want to accept that. And it's a lot of stress right there. So acceptance of now you're not just the son or the daughter, you are a caregiver, is a first step to actually normalize the relationship and eliminate some of the problems that you may have.
Amanda?
Yeah, like Dr. Julian said, recognize first that you are a caregiver. I mean, it starts out with simple stuff. I'm going to take Dad to the doctor today. I'll go do his laundry next week, and, I'll go and clean up the house. I got to go grocery shopping for him. Before you know it, you've turned into a caregiver. So, just making sure, and if they have cognitive impairment with that, just acquire patience and a lot of it. Have empathy with someone who has a broken brain, be able to adapt to change because they are changing right in front of you on a daily basis. And just knowing that, just you're their care partner. They rely on you, but you also got to, again, take that break, get that respite. Because before you know it, you're on that hamster wheel and you're going and going and going, and you don't know how to jump off to take that break. So just remember, as we become caregivers, we still have to remember to focus on ourselves.
Steve?
Well, I would say that with my situation, my wife really has so little cognition that she has to be looked at. Somebody has to be with her all the time, whether it's me or the paid caregiver, and also with tremendous incontinence problems, totally incontinent. So that's a lot of work. You do that all day long. And so things like feeding her, and I cook a little, not that much, but one of the things we've been able to do is we go out for breakfast 5 days a week and do that every morning around 11 o'clock. We go to 4 or 5 different restaurants. It gets her out. It gets me out the house with her. It's good for her because she doesn't have many experiences anymore. So things like just taking care of her in terms of her needs, with the bathroom, with the feeding, the walking. She can still walk, but she's very unstable. I have to hold her hand. So that's gotten worse, the mobility issues and things. She's just very frail. And just being able to do all those things. And of course, the paid caregiver, he's wonderful. He's a lot better at a lot of this stuff than I am, because he's done it before with other people and has the experience. But those are the types of things that I've had to adjust to to be able to do.
So, Steve, while you're on that, how can caregivers improve communication with individuals that they're caring for, especially when you're dealing with a progressive disease like cognitive impairment?
Right. Well, improving communication is, so of course my wife went through the various stages, and one of the early stages is combativeness and lack of cooperation, whatever you want to call it. Now she's more in a very accepting state, and but as you go through the different stages, of course, patience and understanding. So I tried to understand her behavior, and a lot of times I did the wrong things because I couldn't understand it, and I would try to tell her, direct her, lecture her, say, don't do this, blah, 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 that, and she didn't get it. And so it took me a long time because I guess I'm stubborn, but I would always try to talk her out of things or talk her into things and things like that. Finally, I learned that acceptance is more important than understanding. You don't have to understand it. You just need to accept it. So when I get into my little moods or whatever, I think about that, and that brings me back. I think that's very important. The other thing is, it doesn't make sense a lot of times what they say and what their thoughts are about, but you don't correct them, you don't challenge them, you don't ask them to repeat themselves, you make it easy, and you just agree with them. And
Great.
that goes a long way.
That's
Yeah,
great,
it
Steve.
does. It does.
Amanda?
So going with the flow, like Mr. Freeman said, pick your battles. If my mom was a person who got up every morning and before she had her coffee and toast, if she got up and got dressed, had her shower, made sure she was all well put together, and now through cognitive impairment, if that has changed, it's okay to get a robe on. Let's wash our face and go eat that toast and that coffee. It's okay. Just kind of letting go of some of the things that we used to make sure that she would want to do. Now this is mom's behaviors now, and it's totally different. Caregivers can also, get trainings through workshops. We talked about the caregiver portal for North Carolina that came about during COVID, the True Alta portal. 5-8 minute tutorials, sometimes 10. Now, if you know Teepa Snow, hers are a little bit lengthier, but they help our caregivers get through those moments that are different from what they're used to dealing with. Challenges with mom eating breakfast in the morning, getting dressed, going to the bathroom, things like that, those challenges. And then again, focusing on yourself. Those tutorials are out there. It is so very important that we do focus on ourselves. Let's see. And just make sure when you're communicating with someone with cognitive impairment, keep eye contact, call their name, make sure they know you're talking to them. Sometimes we may have to use nonverbal gestures, to get them to do something. If mom is a wanderer and she's been wandering all morning long, let's sit down in a chair and say, Mom, come sit down beside me. I'm tired. Don't blame it on her. Don't blame her. You're the one who's tired. Okay. And I need a break. Do you mind sitting with me? A lot of times they don't like to hear the word no, or you can't, or don't. So I commend you for getting that caregiver in to assist you with your loved one, because we want to make sure they're safe in their own environment. And so that caregiver, our first instinct is to say, no, honey, we can't do that, or no, we won't do that, or, but when the caregiver comes in, and I'm pretty sure he's a handsome young man too, which does help, I'm sure, with her care. But, just having that other person in there to kind of give you a break, it works.
Steve, and then Julia.
Yeah, I'd like to also talk about communication with the paid caregiver, not just with with my wife. So I know he is great with my wife. We've had him a long time. I have a lot of peace of mind and trust. But I always worry about keeping him. And that's one of the reasons why I went up on the hours to pay him, because at one time he had like 2 or 3 different families, and he was even working for 6 months at Taco Bell at night. That's not good. So he and I, we're a team, and we focus on our teamwork. And so every morning when he comes around 12:30. So when he comes, I give him a short summary of how's it going. How's my wife doing with the bathroom issues? How's she doing with her eating and drinking?
That's awesome.
Mobility issues, if she fell, and any of her agitation levels, because they go up and down, and sometimes they're really high. So I tell him that this is what it was in the morning, so you can probably expect more of it in the afternoon. And then when I come back around dinner time, he gives me the same report about how it went. And we've been doing that for a couple of years, and it works real well because it gives us both anticipatory instead of reactionary. We can anticipate better. The other thing with the teamwork is, because again, I can't emphasize enough how I want to keep this guy as long as possible, because he's perfect for my wife. So I've made him a partner in the decision making. And so I'll ask for his advice for all kinds of things. And then and I will follow it. And he feels more vested. He feels like he's a partner in all of this. And I think that's caregiver satisfaction. And I think he's told me that he's going to stay as long as possible. We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
But I think about that every day. What kind of relationship I have with the paid caregiver to facilitate an ongoing relationship, because if you got to change, it's going to be so dysfunctional, and it's going to uproot things. It's going to be traumatic for the person with dementia. So consistency is good, and peace of mind, and it's also based on trust. You got to trust.
Absolutely.
And by doing those things that I was talking about with the teamwork and sharing and investing the ideas together, that's how you build trust.
Julian?
Yes, communication is very important. Now, are you communicating with the family the same way that you communicate with a professional? Probably not. Is there any kind of style of communication that is more sort of recommended? Well, yes, don't be aggressive to begin with, and maybe you need to use more an assertive language when you are talking to the professional or your family members, because among the Latinos, family is the most important thing, and they always help each other until it happens to you, because they don't show up. Then, so what are you going to do? Oh, so we are asking them to make a plan, to make some goals, to plan who in the family you think it can be helpful at this day of the week for this time, and your goal is gonna be to reach out to that person and explain and talk to them until commit to that particular time. Maybe if you don't ask for help, you're not gonna get it. So with your family, you're gonna have to be more direct. Maybe we know that they love you and they're ready, but they are not coming. And so, yes, communication is very important in that sense, and training the caregivers to control their emotions and to use a style that it has better outcomes. It is a plus, I think.
So Julian, continuing on with that, what emerging technologies or innovations do you see impacting the future of caregiving?
So there are many applications out there that people are using, and some of them are still being developed. So when we had COVID and we decided to actually test the program, the Caregiver TLC, we put the whole program over Zoom. So we used all virtual. There was no direct contact with caregivers. It was a group session through a Zoom video conference, and the website with plenty of resources and activities that we kept for 2 or 3 years with a lot of the community partners from the Charlotte area. And I think that it was very good because people in rural areas were able to join us. People who were super busy in the house because they have kids and older adults, they could actually do the program from their house. That you don't have to come to any office or any place. So it was sort of bringing the program to them and giving them assignments where they will do exercising during the week, and that helped them a lot. That was the results that we got from them. So I expect more of that. We already have a few of the programs, like the Savvy Caregiver is also online over Zoom, and I'm assuming that we will see more of those. In addition to the multiple gadgets that you can use your phone for getting information about dementia, or they can control, what kind of things you are doing during the day. And those are also good. But in our case, it was more a situation of reaching out to caregivers and being able to deliver the program to them. And you know how difficult it is for caregivers to really come to all the sessions and complete the training.
Amanda? Great.
Okay. So I would think of more fun technologies. When I talk to my caregivers trying to maneuver through caregiving technologies, I tell them, maybe in the mornings when you're getting mom up, ask Alexa to play mom's morning playlist, and it may be a little gospel or something subtle to get her up, wake her up, get her going. In the afternoon, it may be something that she can dance to, after lunch, whatever we can incorporate in her day to keep her engaged. That's something that I would, advise them to do. There are alarms that caregivers get for their homes, especially if you have a wanderer. There's GPS trackers. There's a lot of companies out here that have those as well. You want to make sure if your loved one is a wanderer, you have a system in place because they can take off in a heartbeat. And before you know it, you are looking for them. So, those technologies like that is what I mainly talk about with my caregivers. And then just the education piece of the trainings and things that, are online or in person workshops. We just had a caregiver workshop in Pitt County on Tuesday, and it was phenomenal. So just giving those extra tools to help these caregivers put on their caregiving tool belt, as they go along their caregiving journey.
Steve?
Well, what I just want to reiterate what was already said. So the Division of Aging invested years ago in the Tralta program, online educational program, which is now North Carolina Caregiver Portal. And we were so excited to be able to do that and find the money to get that started. And I remember I was around in the early days where they were developing that program, and it had so many benefits because it was so convenient for the caregiver. They can't get out of the house and go to meetings or go to the senior center or caregiver support groups. It's difficult. So just to be able to do things like that, I think is a tremendous benefit. And of course, all those modules have these different caregiving tools, how to take care of your family member and stuff. So to me, that would be the innovative thing to pay attention to.
Amanda?
The technologies?
No. Sorry.
You're okay.
Let's wrap up with, we all have stories, experiences about caregiving. It can be personal, it can be professional. But, as was brought up early by Dr. Kent about there's only 4 types of people, all of us are in the room. So what kind of final thought, memory, story would you like to share?
Well, I would like to say that all of my stories with working with caregivers are a success for them. Sometimes it's not. We sometimes we have to place a loved one, or a loved one will pass away before they can use the program. But when I had a caregiver to call me, and she had siblings, it was 8 of them. She was the main one that was providing mom's care. And she said, I just don't know how to get them involved. I tell them all how she's doing and what's going on with her and how she's progressing. But, they're all cheering me on, like, you got this, instead of saying, hey, what can I do to help? But did you want, okay.
No,
But, and I told her, I said, okay, when I award you this respite grant voucher, I want you to tell all of your siblings what your plans are and how you're going to use it. And let them know it's not an option for them to cop out. They have to come up with the schedule to help you go on your trip with your husband and be here with your mom. And she said, you think that'll work? I said, yes, ma'am, it will. So she went to them. She did exactly what she called me. She said, I did exactly what you said. And she said, and they went with it. I said, see? I said, just stand up for yourself, because she needed that break. And she also ran a farm, and it was a lot of work. So caring for her mom and running a farm and having siblings that really didn't just jump in there to help. I said, you got to just tell them what you need. Just tell them what to do. Because a lot of times, they won't sometimes. But that's one of my greatest stories. I mean, it might not be great for y'all, but she was just so adamant that they would not help and didn't know how to go to them and get the respite process going. I said, it'll work. Trust me, it'll work. And it did.
That's great. Julian?
So I have a story. It's mostly based on the role of the culture and the cultural values that we have. My family members won't be available to help me that much, but if I call for help, they don't like that. Nobody's come to your house. It is the family. Well, it's just only me. I need help. Mm-hmm. So they will sort of. So there's a contradiction in terms there that creates the burden on the caregiver.
Absolutely.
So my mother, one of those values. Before she died, 4 years before that, she started to develop some sort of memory trouble, significant trouble, and dementia by the end. And she always told us the same thing, five children, so 3 girls, 2 boys, so plenty of people to take care of her. Mm-hmm. She always said to us, if I ever have dementia, the last place that you need to take me is a nursing home. If you do that, that will be bad. And she said that constantly. So when she got some initial dementia and we started to care for her, my sister basically was the main caregiver. After a while, she just needed more help, and we had several conversations, and I'm really sorry to say that by the end of the second or third conversation, we were talking about we may have to put her in a nursing home. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, we cannot do that. But, nobody was like, and I think that those situations are very personal because you never thought that would happen, and you can see it, and you are part of it. So I still don't have a definite answer if it is positive or negative. But for me, it was like a shock. It's like, okay, this cannot happen. So she died before we had to make the decision, but it was just days away. So we feel a little bad about that.
And Steve?
So memorable experience that highlights the impact of caregiving for me. I don't really I can name one, but what I really value and I see periodically with my wife is anything that I think is related to joy, where she laughs or smiles or is being silly because Mark, you knew her, and she used to have this very outgoing personality and everything. Now she's a shell of herself, and we don't see those things at all. But they still do occur periodically, and every time it happens, it just makes my day, and it keeps me going. So that's what I remember, because she's still a human being, even though she's diminished. Her memory is almost totally gone. She doesn't recognize her children, or my stepchildren, our grandchildren. Those things have already happened, but me and her are still close, and we can talk about certain things that I still can get a smile or a laugh. And so I try to do that and keep it going, because you just treasure it while you have it, because it's only going to last for so long.
That's
the way it
great.
is.
Absolutely. I
Can't
want
beat the
to
disease.
piggyback off that as well, because creating those moments of joy for your loved one, and whatever that moment is for them, you do want to continue to see them smile and be playful and be fun throughout this journey.
Thank you so much, all of you. Now we're going to let you ask questions. So I've got a microphone that I can run around, but I purposefully didn't bring up a bunch of statistics. If you want to know how many unpaid caregivers there are, or the cost, if we had to pay for it, look it up. It's everywhere. This is about the stories of these people in the profession and personally. Who has a question that you'd like to ask, okay?
We also do have, if anyone wants to ask questions but not out loud, this QR code on the left will send your question to me.
So I put this in the QR code, but I would prefer to ask it anyway. So Steve, you've been at this longer than some of the folks in this room have been alive, and known a lot of the theoretical and the data and all of that. What has surprised you in this role as a caregiver that it was not expected by you?
Okay, nice to see you, Cassie. I see Dave behind me too. What has surprised me? It came so fast. I just, she went down, and she went down fast. She started losing her cognition and her memory so fast. And like I said, initially, there was an eating disorder. She had a colonoscopy, and after that, she complained about back pain for like 10 months, and it was those sort of things. And that was really related to the dementia. Did I know that at the time? No. I thought it was other things. And so, yeah, I took her to nutritionists and things like that, because she wasn't eating. Now she's eating good, even though she's lost a lot of weight, because I think that's a function of the disease. She eats good. We feed her 2 meals a day. We feed her snacks. There was a time a couple of years ago when she was just eating soup and things like that, because she couldn't swallow. So I guess what surprised me the most was how quickly it came.
Could we have helped you? Could you have known that before it happened? With all the stuff you know about this world, is there something that we missed that we could offer to other people?
No, I don't think so. I think part of my experience, probably like a lot of other people, being in denial, saying, no, it couldn't be. Being in denial. And that was, but then, when I got it, I got it. And, but she did really change significantly in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. That's the thing. I want to make this point. Everybody who has the dementia, it's different. We all know about all the different phases that you go in with dementia and all of that. But to say everybody does it the same way or goes through it the same way, no. Everybody is a unique individual. They're different. And every caregiver is different, too, in terms of how they handle it. So that's one thing I would suggest to everybody, is figure it out, and trial and error is a great way. This didn't work, so I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to do this. Trial and error really works, but everybody's unique, everybody's different, and so there's no cookie cutter approach to it.
Next question, Jill.
What are ways to kind of talk about dementia and progression with a person that may get it before it happens? Like I heard you, Julian, talking about, like your mother said, don't put me in a nursing home. And that might not be a fair request, might not be able to keep them safe. So what techniques have y'all seen to talk about a potential of the disease before it happens?
So I would say that it's part of the misconception or stigma about dementia. Maybe she didn't understand that this is a disease. It's not something that is a punishment from any power or anything that is a stain on the family, on you. And so that's why I said it's mostly from the cultural perspective how you understand those situations. But as the dementia as the journey of caregiving goes, things change constantly. Mm-hmm. You need different services. You need different training in different professionals. That's all what I would say. Yeah.
We got time for we'll do two more. Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's sort of leading off of that. I work with caregivers every day, and this level of resistance, either on the part of caregivers to bringing in help, but really on the part of their loved ones. And I keep envisioning some sort of public service campaign of like, you don't win if you die at home with no services. Like, it's okay to bring in help. And so I just was wondering just the different techniques of combating or addressing this resistance, because that is what I'm seeing with the caregivers. They want to bring in help, and their parent or their spouse or their loved one is just not allowing that, or not allowing a move. Or they have the money and they're refusing to use it. They'll pay for a lawyer and accountant, but not for home care, not for care management. So
It's a cultural problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that with that, how to bring someone in and introduce them to your loved one, I've had folks be very creative. You know, Mom, I have a friend of mine that's stopping over today to come and have lunch with us. You know, I want you to meet her. And it also helps if it's someone that moms know. It could be someone from the church. It could be someone from the neighborhood. It can be, you know, someone that she does know, especially with my Project Care program. It doesn't have to be with an agency, a total stranger, because like Dr. Freeman said, we want people in our homes that we can trust and our loved one is going to be comfortable with. So if it's that neighbor down the street or her granddaughter or, you know, someone that Mom will be comfortable with, start introducing those people.
So my question is, and thank you all so much, this is wonderful.
You're welcome.
Steve, to you first. Did you intentionally go after a guy to care for your wife? And I was going to ask about male-female dynamics as you seek care. And then Amanda, you know, how do we, I mean, as we look at the projections for this disease, it's not a pretty sight. And yet we're having fewer children. We're having, and if we have two, one's in California and one's in Ohio. And so how is North Carolina really going to address, even as I look in this room, people of different races, ethnicities, people in rural North Carolina, people who live far from Duke University or East Carolina University, how are we really going to get into these spaces so that people know they can call you?
You want me to go first?
Well, I'll just answer that.
I have one for Julio too, but I can't take up all the time.
Yeah, real quick. So he was the second caregiver. The first one didn't work out. She lasted about 3 months. And she was an older lady, closer in age to my wife. And I thought that was the way to go. Picked her out. And after, when I was working on the Dix campus at the division in the afternoons, she would call me once or twice a a day saying, could you talk to your wife? She's highly agitated. No, I can't calm her down, this, that, and the other. And I was saying, oh my God, you're supposed to be able to do that. And I'm working, and it got worse and worse. And she ended up quitting because she couldn't handle it, couldn't manage it. And so they found this young man, and they said he was an experienced dementia caregiver. And so I met him. I was with him for a whole week before I let him care for her. Part of that is explaining to him all the things you have to do, where things are in the house, what she can do, what she can't do, all of that. It was an educational process. But they hit it off immediately. He's a young black man who, and she's an older white woman, but they hit it off. The first time they ever saw each other, they were dancing. And so I knew then that she likes him, and he likes her. And so the last 4.5 years, we've built a great relationship. And I know it's a house of cards. It can end so quick because something could happen to him or his family or us. It could end just like that. But nevertheless, it's something that I'm trying to keep going for as long as possible. Because
See, that's something we don't talk about, is that particular issue. You're on the edge all the time wondering if you're going to keep somebody. I'd never thought of that.
that's very stressful. But like I say, I've worked at it in terms of making a team approach, giving him more hours. I do everything I can for him to keep him happy. I take him home a lot. He doesn't live that far away from me, but a lot of times he doesn't have a car. So, just do little things. I really consider him part of our family.
So we didn't get to all the questions, but I hope that you all will mingle and network.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you so much.
It's back in the room where we started, and you're welcome to wander, network, but we'll have some lunchtime content around 12:45.
Please join me in showing our appreciation.